So let's dive deeper into some glaring examples of governance failures. Note again that these are not reflective of the ability to build the right model or the model of the highest accuracy or anything like that. These are concerns which go beyond accuracy, beyond conventional matrices that data scientists get taught to optimize for. So the first example here is Amazon's AI-based recruiting screening tool. So in 2014 or 15, in those 2 years, Amazon actually built a tool which helped it do hiring screening or recruitment screening based on resumes. And these are mainly for technology roles, so not the rest of the business. So the goal was to reduce the manual effort that it took to get to hiring. And even before hiring, usually there is a element of screening of the resumes in order to invite successful candidates for the next round of interviews, which are usually the more expensive round of interviews from a perspective of cost of interviewing. So to get to that stage, the goal of the system was to rank these candidates based on the resume on a 5-point star uh, scale, and then use those stars to have effective methods of filtering out or screening out those resumes which are not going to be of any interest anyway. So kind of like product ratings on Amazon itself, right? So the tool was trained on 10 years of historical hiring data, Amazon's own hiring data, which is a proprietary data set. And that was mostly resumes from previously hired applicants. So I'll leave the details out at this stage to, maybe you can go read up about this case study yourself on how exactly the training happened, etc. But what's important is that from a governance perspective, there were multiple things that went wrong. The first significant aspect that went wrong was the model ended up having gender bias. So specifically, the tool downgraded those resumes which have the word women's in it. Like for instance, if the resume said uh, the candidate was captain of the women's chess club, the resume got downgraded. Then there were two specific women only colleges whose graduates were supposedly penalized uh, compared to other non-women candidates or women from exclusive women colleges who had similar kinds of profiles for the same role. So why did this gender bias come in? The main reason was the training data itself was skewed, and that skew was because all of the past hiring that Amazon had done had predominantly favored men. So these tech roles over the last 10 years, prior to the building of the model, had predominantly men candidates who were chosen as the final uh, engineers or technology professionals. And they in turn uh, ended up having resumes which had none of those keywords which are indicative of women, obviously. So this training data skew ended up skewing the model to prefer these known instances of success, and also correspondingly those instances which did not have a correlation with success were therefore rejected or were therefore penalized for. So that's how the gender bias crept into the model. The second angle, which was significantly wrong, was um, feature leakage happened through proxy variables. So even though gender was not an explicit feature, the bias crept in. We saw that in the previous example. But also the model learned to associate indirect signals, right? Like club names and college names were used as a way to, um, optimize for the ideal metric, optimize for the ideal candidate, which is a male candidate, right? So this explicit modeling of various types of attributes that you would normally think is fair game ended up creating an implicit modeling on a variable which is sensitive, which is gender. So that feature leakage was something that they didn't anticipate at all. The third angle was the model had absolutely no transparency on why it reasoned the way it did. Why did somebody get a 5 star? Why did somebody get a 4 star? Reasoning was missing. So it was hard to interpret um, every single output that was getting produced. Notice that the usage of the model was in screening out people who had a low rating. So the high rating was anyway going to be processed by a human afterwards. So if you had mistakenly given somebody high rating when they don't deserve it, presumably they would have gotten caught in the rest of the interview process by humans, which is fair, right? Which is how interviews typically happen. But the cases where the machine is giving low ratings is more sensitive, because those cases end up getting screened out of the system. So without even a human looking at the resume at all. So if you do a lot of false positives, then that's a significant cost associated with uh, discrimination of those people who otherwise would have actually gotten selected by the human-driven interview process. So this raised significant red flags on both accountability as well as explainability. So what were the governance gaps, if you think back on it? First and foremost, there is a lack of auditing of bias in the model. So there was no systematic fairness checks that happened, especially pre-deployment of the model. Model explainability was missing. So there was no transparency on why certain candidates were getting low ranks versus high ranks. Documentation was missing. So in fact, model cards did not exist. Model cards presumably actually provide a concise documentation of what's the current performance of the model, what's the historical versions and releases of the model, etc. Data sheets explaining data sources or features, they were all missing. So that's not something that the team could justify. Human in the loop was also missing. So remember I said the candidates clearing screening obviously were subjected to the classical interview process with recruiters and tech specialists, but the ones who didn't clear the screening were not reviewed by any recruiter, right? Were not subjected to further checks. Uh, in fact, on the other hand, recruiters went about trusting those scores blindly, and that was a significant lacuna. And then last but not the least, ethical review. Because these were automated systems and discrimination based hiring practices were regulated against in the US, there should have been a way to oversee what was happening. So that ethical review was missing because there was no formal oversight board. Amazon finally scrapped the tool in early 2017, and they disbanded the team. The team went on to do various other things in their separate ways. So significant experiment. It costed a lot of resources and money for Amazon to build this team up, to assemble the data, etc. But then they found out they didn't have the right constraints or tools or boundaries to control for the typical ways in which models can go wrong. Some more examples. So there's a particular scoring system called Compass. It's a proprietary scoring engine provided to the criminal justice divisions in the US, mainly the I think the federal courts and Supreme Courts, etc. So the scoring system is intended for criminal offenders, and the scoring system ranks these criminal offenders as how likely they are to commit a crime again. So it becomes a basis for judges to decide on bail, to decide on parole, to decide on early release from jail, etc. So the problem with with the scoring system was that it was controversial right from the beginning, because it was opaque in its judgment, opaque in its decision making, and it also created furthering of the racial divide. Um, Early studies of Compass indicated that the scoring system ended up creating a false correlation with skin color, with race. So, so much so that these studies stated that people of non-white, non-Caucasian origin, like for instance Hispanics, Afro Americans, etc., were discriminated against by the scoring system, whereby they were given a lower score, or rather, they were assigned higher probability of repeating an offense, and therefore their decisions or decisions pertaining to them were less favorable more often than not. Um, on the other side of the coin, the proprietary system was also hailed for being better than rookie judges, or better than humans taking a break, and humans being distracted by phones or being distracted by other things in their lives, such that they were not giving the optimal best for a particular case. This scoring system was supposed to be agnostic to all of that, and therefore better. So you could argue one way or the other, but the fact remains that, especially for use cases like this, the onus of proving that the system works the way it's intended and does not discriminate, does not violate any of the uh, commonly understood ethics of ML-driven systems, that onus lies with the developer, lies with the provider of such systems and tools. The third example is also very interesting. It still plagues many of the users of Google to this day, which is Google's personalized ad service. This was fined 50 million euros under GDPR in 2019 for lacking transparency on how user data was collected. I believe this, stemmed from some of the data collection that happened not just using regular Google services like YouTube, etc., but also uh, from Android, right? So that data set is a little more opaque on how it's being collected about individuals. Lacking valid consent for personalization. So to be able to say to the data principal that, look, I'm giving you a service which has tailored recommendations, also means that you got to get their consent for that particular use case. So remember the data minimization principle, right? So that consent was lacking for certain personalization of these ads, and um, the data was being processed beyond the minimal level that was required for delivering a service. So this was proven, and the non-compliance was resulted in a significant fine. And the last example I want to just spend a bit more time on, because it has direct implications on AI-driven systems. So Upstart is a fintech lender in the US. One of their core differentiators is the fact that they had a AI-driven credit model, what's called as an alternative credit model. The conventional credit models use something called as a credit score to mainly decide on um, credit worthiness of individuals, whereas with Upstart, they worked on algorithms which processed other kinds of data beyond just credit score, and use those as a basis for determining credit worthiness of borrowers. And as a result, some of their decisions became things that were subjected to scrutiny regulatorily by the US Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in 2022 and 23. Specifically, their AI model used alternate data sets, and machine learning obviously was there to set loan interest rates and then make the final outcome on whether the loan is approved or not. So the concerns were raised on these AI models' decisions, especially because these models were not able to prove and explain why they've taken certain decisions, especially from a perspective of whether they were systematizing or institutionalizing discriminatory practices. So that was a significant area of concern. So this CFPB, or Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, issued a report highlighting potential disparate impact on certain protected groups, which is just language for saying that certain types of discrimination was happening, especially on vulnerable population, which should not have been discriminated against, and um, the associated difficulty for those vulnerable population groups members to get credit as a result of Upstart's unexplainable credit model. So that was a report that was actually published as the final outcome, and then Upstart obviously um, fought against the conclusions of the report, and they also made statements that they have incorporated a lot of the best practices, etc., etc. But this is a very recent development, just a couple of years before, and it's also one of the emerging use cases of AI to use alternative credit scoring mechanisms, because in most cases, uh, credit is asymmetric uh, business process, because the person applying for the credit knows fully well whether they are able to pay, whether they have the means to get credit or not, whereas the person issuing the credit has absolutely no information about the borrower typically. So they are at the mercy of the borrower to reveal information about themselves. So these kinds of AI driven behavioral credit models are all the rage as we speak. Okay, so uh, we will stop with looking at we'll pause this video by looking at the nature of how we can get governance done in action, and then this becomes the basis for us to put the right kind of tooling around ML driven systems that we engineer ourselves. So if you look at what holds governance up, um, it's ethics, and we spoke about the 4 principles of ethics before in the first slide. So think of these 4 principles or ethics as an umbrella, and this umbrella is fighting on behalf of you, the consumer, all the different ways in which the governance, um, is threatened. Um, uh, I mean, maybe threatened is a strong word, but governance is tested, I should say. Obviously, one of the most important tests of governance is regulatory risk, meaning that are you in compliance with the law of the land, with regulations that apply to your industry? So that's one facet. The second facet is reputational harm. So are there nefarious actors out to prove you wrong or make the company suffer, or you know make the end users suffer? So that's a significant type of action that's possible or threat that's possible. And then the third is change management. Uh, Plain old change management. As the company evolves, as business processes evolve, as the broader ecosystem in which the company is operating evolves, as people's sentiments and interests evolve, how is the company which is doing ML work able to balance that against the ethics of the ML deployments? So these, you know, um, these ethics principles are ensured or governed, or rather are complied with using a bunch of different tools, a bunch of different activities that the company or ML teams have to do. Um, I'll talk about 3 main such activities. One is something called as drift monitoring. The second is bias detection, and the third is explainability. There are other activities as well, which are sectoral, which are specific to each industry or company, which go beyond the generics that we will cover in this course. So that's left to you to read upon, because, like I said, most of those regulations change quite often. But these 3 activities, if you incorporate as part of your ML lifecycle, you will actually benefit across the board. It doesn't matter whether you're governed by um, regulations, or you just want to ensure that change management happens correctly in the way that it's supposed to happen. So with that, we'll pause. In the next video, we will dive deeper into each of these different actions.